What happens when a 74-year-old man feeds ducks, only to be evicted by his own family? He had no idea that one handwritten letter would spark a rebellion. What happened next didn't just change his life. Over 500,000 people watched it unfold. The bench, the bread, and the beginning of the end. You don't expect your life to fall apart over a loaf of bread and a park bench, but that's exactly how mine started crumbling. It was a Thursday. Cloudy. One of those mornings where the sky looks like it's carrying a grudge, and you just know the wind's about to blow something in your face. Leaves, dirt, disappointment. I was sitting on the same bench I've claimed every morning for the past 6 years. My spot, right across from the lake. In my hand, a crusty sourdough, torn into soft pieces. Not for me, my doctor's been glaring at my carbs for years, but for the ducks. Yeah, I feed ducks. Real rebellious, huh? It's kind of my thing. And before you roll your eyes, let me tell you, those ducks are more loyal than half the people I've known. They show up. They look at you like you matter. And that morning, I wasn't just tossing crumbs, I was talking, out loud, to the ducks. Better enjoy it while you can, I muttered. They're probably gonna outlaw bread next, or ducks. A few waddled closer. One pecked my shoe like it was in on the joke. For a moment, I smiled. A real one. Then she showed up. Cassidy, my daughter-in-law. Technically, she used to call me Dad, back when it suited her. Now she calls me Frank. Cold. Precise. Like I'm a tax document. She stood by the bench with her fancy jogging stroller and her newer-than-sense yoga gear, arms crossed like I was committing a felony. "You're feeding ducks again?" she asked, blinking like it was offensive. I nodded, smiled politely. "They like it," she scoffed. "You know there's a sign now?" I glanced around. Sure enough, some laminated thing zip-tied to a tree about 30 feet away. "Please do not feed the ducks." "I'm not feeding them," I said. "I'm just offering." Cassidy wasn't amused. "You know what your problem is, Frank? You're stuck in your own little world." That was rich, coming from the queen of digital detox retreats. But I kept my mouth shut. I'd promised my son I'd try to be civil. Then came the kicker. She took a photo. Of me. "Seriously?" I asked. "For the HOA, she said. "You're in violation." Violation. Like I was a parking ticket. That was when I realized something wasn't just off. Something was shifting. See, after my wife passed 3 years ago, my son and his perfect wife decided I'd be better off close to family. So they moved me into the guest house on their property. A box with windows, not a home. At first it felt like kindness, like someone tossing you a life ring after a storm. But lately, it felt more like a cage. Cassidy started managing things. At first it was groceries, then my prescriptions, then my mailbox, then my voice. By that afternoon, I got an official letter. Notice of behavioral concern. The HOA had received a report that I was violating park rules, causing disruption, and creating unsanitary conditions. Feeding ducks. Unsanitary. What the hell kind of world did we turn into? The next day, my key fob stopped working at the community center. That's where I used to play chess with Howard and the guys. They didn't even tell me. They just deactivated it. I asked my son, Mark, if he could look into it. He sighed, rubbed his eyes like I was another item on his to-do list. "Dad, maybe it's time to take a step back. Let people help." Let people help? I wasn't asking for help. I was asking for my damn key card. That night, alone in the guest house, I looked around. Everything smelled like air freshener and cheap politeness. Photos of my grandkids sat crooked on the shelf, except no one let me babysit anymore. I was too forgetful, according to Cassidy. funny. I remember every birthday, every allergy, every dumb cartoon they like. But sure, I'm the risk. I started to wonder if I was even a person anymore, or just some aging inconvenience everyone politely tolerated. It hit me hard, the loneliness. Not the kind where you miss someone, the kind where you realize you could vanish, and it wouldn't change anyone's day. I thought about the ducks, about how even they showed up, waddled over, listened, and I thought, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe the world is just getting colder. So the next morning, I went back to that bench. Same bread, same ducks, same sign, and I fed them. On purpose. Not out of rebellion, not even out of spite, out of memory, out of me. Because someone had to remember who I was, even if it was just a few hungry ducks. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how it unfolded, because the fight for dignity was only just beginning. The meeting, the medicine, and the message no one saw coming. You'd think feeding ducks wouldn't lead to a formal intervention, but here we are. 3 days after the incident, my son Mark asked me to come to the main house for a quick chat. Translation: sit in their oversized beige kitchen while Cassidy sipped overpriced herbal tea and tried to explain why my existence was making everyone so uncomfortable. The table was spotless, like everything in that house. Not a crumb, not a smudge, not even a sign that real people lived there. Just curated silence and the hum of an expensive refrigerator that probably had better healthcare coverage than I did. "Dad," Mark began, hands folded like a therapist trying too hard. "We're concerned." I raised an eyebrow. "Because I'm committing war crimes with breadcrumbs?" Cassidy didn't laugh. "Of course not." She pressed her lips together like I'd just said something disgusting. Then she slid a folder across the table like I was being served papers. Inside, a printed list of incidents. Feeding ducks. Asking the mailman if he'd seen my subscription to Popular Mechanics. Knocking on the neighbor's door to return their damn dog when it got out. Apparently, I was now a public nuisance, with escalating behavioral irregularities. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a breath that felt heavier than I expected. "You think I'm losing it," I said flatly. Mark sighed. "It's not about blame. It's about getting ahead of things. We talked to someone, Dr. Keener." "A shrink?" "A specialist," Cassidy corrected. "He focuses on age-related cognitive transitions." Lovely. Now I was a transition. They handed me a business card. I didn't even look at it. "I'm not going," I said. Cassidy blinked like I'd slapped her. "Frank, you need help. You've been talking to animals, acting erratically." "Cassidy, I've been surviving," I snapped. "Your version of sanity is a beige tomb. If I have to sit in silence all day, nodding and smiling like a mannequin just to fit your idea of normal, then maybe I'd rather go mad." That hit something. Mark's mouth opened, then closed. Cassidy looked like she'd just been called out in church. "I don't want to live like this," I said, invisible, policed, measured, but it didn't matter. The next day, the locks on my guest house were changed. For security reasons, they said. No one talked to me. Not the grandkids, not the neighbors. Even Howard stopped texting. Probably got the memo from Cassidy that I was now unwell. So I sat, alone, day after day. And I did something I hadn't done in years. I wrote letters, not emails, not texts, handwritten letters, to people I'd lost touch with, friends from my engineering days, army buddies, one to an old neighbor who used to garden like her life depended on it. I told them the truth. I didn't sugarcoat it. "I'm 74. I'm not dead. I'm not dangerous. But I'm lonely as hell. And my own family treats me like a risk instead of a man." I included my address and my phone number. Mailed every letter with a shaky hand but a full heart. Days passed. Then a week. Nothing. Then it happened. One morning, a knock. Not at the front door of the main house. My door. I opened it and nearly dropped my coffee. It was Lisa, from accounting, from back when I still worked. She looked older, sure, but the spark was there. "You wrote me," she said. I couldn't speak. I just nodded like an idiot. "I was worried about you," she said. "Then I got your letter and thought, hell, if someone's got the guts to say that, they deserve to be heard." We talked, for hours, about everything and nothing. About how she'd been pushed out of her job by a young culture refresh, about how she missed the days when people actually looked each other in the eye. She came back the next day, and the next. Soon, others showed up too. One man, Joe, from the old plant, brought beer and lawn chairs. A few days later, we had a full-blown gathering on my tiny lawn. Lawn chairs, folding tables, people laughing. Cassidy wasn't thrilled. One afternoon, she stormed out with a Tupperware of something organic and flavorless and said, "This isn't a retirement community tailgate, Frank." I looked at her, smiled sweetly. "You're right. It's better." She stormed off. We kept talking and laughing. That night, I slept better than I had in months, because for the first time since my wife passed, I wasn't just existing. I was living, and that terrified them. This is the climax, everything you've been waiting for. It's right here. Stay with me to see how I finally took my power back. The ultimatum, the camera, and the crowd that wasn't supposed to come. You know what they say, the higher you rise, the faster they try to knock you down. Turns out, community isn't just about casseroles and block parties, not when it threatens someone's little ecosystem of control. The more people came to my lawn, the more Cassidy's eyes twitched like she'd developed a sudden allergy to joy. And Mark? He stayed quiet. The kind of quiet that meant he'd chosen sides without even realizing it. It started small. HOA warnings. Something about unauthorized gatherings and non-compliant noise levels. I laughed. We were old. We played Glenn Miller, for crying out loud, and the only yelling came from someone's bad knees giving out when they stood up too fast. But Cassidy didn't see neighbors and friends. She saw a threat. To her order. To her precious, curated calm. Then came the bomb. It was a Saturday morning. I had just set out lawn chairs, 12 of them, and a cooler full of orange juice and instant coffee, because yes, we party hard around here. Cassidy showed up like the villain in a courtroom drama, dressed in expensive beige and holding a letter in both hands like it was a sacred scroll. "You have 30 days," she said, lips tight. 30 days to vacate the guest house." I blinked. "Excuse me? We're selling the property." "We?" She didn't answer. Mark wasn't even there. "I'm giving you plenty of time," she added, like she was doing me a favor. "You'll get assistance to find a facility. Something appropriate." Facility. Like I was a broken appliance that needed to be returned to the manufacturer. I didn't say a word. Not then. I just took the paper, folded it slowly, and set it on the armrest of my chair. Then I went inside, closed the door, and for the first time in years, I wept. Not because I was afraid, but because I was angry. This wasn't about health. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. They wanted me quiet, manageable, invisible. Well, screw that. I wiped my face, poured a glass of tap water like it was a toast, and sat back down outside. 2 days later, I called Lisa. "I'm done playing nice," I said. "You still got that YouTube channel you use for your sewing stuff?" She laughed. "I'm listening." We filmed the next morning. Me, the bench, The ducks? I told the story. No embellishment, no fake tears, just the truth. I'm 74. My wife died. My family moved me into a guest house. And when I started making friends again, real, human connections, they decided I was a problem to be removed. I didn't call names. I didn't point fingers. I just spoke. Lisa edited the video, uploaded it, and told a few friends. I didn't expect much. But by Tuesday, it had 5,000 views, then 15,000. Then it hit 100,000. Emails started flooding in, from people just like me, grandparents, veterans, teachers, people who'd given everything to their families, only to be benched like a used-up athlete once they passed 70. And then, people showed up, from other neighborhoods, from other towns. One woman drove 2 hours just to shake my hand. "You said what we've all been afraid to say," she told me, "that we're not done yet, that we matter." A local reporter reached out, wanted to do a piece. I agreed, on one condition. We film at my bench. The article went live. Headline, "Man, 74, fights eviction with community support," and ducks. Cassidy nearly imploded. She marched over to my door, flanked by 2 HOA board members, like she was leading a raid. "This is harassment," she spat. "You're making us look like villains." I shrugged. "Nope, I'm just telling the truth. If the shoe fits." One of the board members, a guy named Gerald, looked suddenly uncomfortable. "We didn't know it had gone this far," he said. Cassidy glared at him like he'd betrayed the empire. "Don't worry," I said calmly. "I've got a few more surprises coming." That night, I got a message from a woman named Margie. She was a retired social worker and apparently one of the viewers who saw the video. "I know someone in city housing who'd be very interested in this," she wrote. "People have rights, even old ones." It was the first time in a long time that the word rights felt personal. We weren't just elderly. We were citizens. We were people. The fire was lit. Now it's time to finish this. What came next wasn't just personal. It became something bigger. Don't miss how it all ends in Chapter 4. You ever walk into a room and feel like you're the only one not in on the joke? That was me, the day of the HOA hearing. Except this time, I wasn't just some old man wandering into someone else's idea of control. I was the story. The man who fed ducks, wrote letters, and accidentally sparked a local uprising. And I wasn't alone. Lisa was with me, holding a tablet loaded with documents, emails, video timestamps, receipts, as the kids would say. Gerald from the HOA was now nervously offering me coffee. And in the back, at least 20 people, friends, strangers, neighbors, standing, watching, not saying a word, just present. Cassidy? Oh, she looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. She walked in wearing that lawyer-adjacent power suit and started firing off buzzwords like liability, disturbance, and my personal favorite, delusional self-aggrandizement. Yeah, she said that on record. The chairwoman of the HOA, a woman named Ruth, who I'd never seen blink before, finally held up her hand. "We're not here to argue over personalities," she said. "We're here to determine whether Mr. O'Donnell, that's me, has violated community policy to the point of requiring forced relocation." "Relocation," I muttered under my breath. "Like I'm a sofa." Lisa gave me a look. "Frank, breathe." I stood up, slowly. My knees aren't what they used to be, but I still know how to stand when it matters. I've lived in that guest house for 3 years, paid for it with my wife's life insurance and my own damn hands. I've followed your rules. I've raked my leaves. I've kept my mouth shut when the neighbor's grandkids used my garden hose like a carnival ride. But I feed ducks. I talk to people. And suddenly, I'm a threat? I took out my phone, opened the YouTube video, held it up. This video has 480,000 views. That's almost 500,000 people who heard what happened. You know how many of them said I was the problem? None? You know what they said? They said, "That's my dad. That's my neighbor. That's me, 10 years from now." Silence. Real silence. The kind that fills the space when someone realizes they might have gone too far. Cassidy opened her mouth, but Ruth cut her off. "We've seen the video." Then she looked at me. "We also reviewed your lease. The eviction was unauthorized." Cassidy froze. I didn't blink. "Further," Ruth continued, "we've received formal complaints from residents regarding discriminatory behavior. Toward you." Cassidy's jaw moved, but no sound came out. Ruth turned to her. "You are hereby ordered to cease any further harassment or interference with Mr. O'Donnell's living situation. Failure to do so may result in sanctions." It was quiet for a beat. Then someone clapped. One person. Then two. Then the whole damn room was applauding like they'd just seen Rocky win a rematch. I didn't smile right away. I just looked at Cassidy. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just turned and walked out. Mark wasn't there. Hadn't been for weeks. I walked home, my home, slower than usual, but with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Dignity. There were flowers waiting on my porch. A note. "Thank you for reminding us we still matter. Margie." 2 days later, a journalist from a national outlet reached out. Wanted to do a segment. Not just about me, but about this phenomenon. They called it "The Quiet Disappearance of Our Elders, and the Ones Who Fought Back." Lisa filmed me again. This time, I looked right into the camera. If you're out there, sitting alone in a room they built for your silence, speak. Write. Feed the ducks. Raise your damn voice. Because if we don't tell our stories, they'll write us out of their version of history. The video went viral again. Bigger than before. Letters poured in. Handwritten ones. People telling me their stories. Thanking me for mine. Asking how they could fight back. So I created something. The Front Porch Project. An online community. Weekly meetups. Letter-writing circles. Even a podcast, which my grandson helped me record after I called him out of the blue and said, "You know I'm more internet famous than you now, right?" He laughed. "Guess you are, Grandpa." We talk more now. Really talk. Cassidy hasn't said much since the hearing, but last month I caught her standing by the edge of the lawn, watching from a distance as we set up chairs again. I waved. She didn't wave back. But she didn't look angry either. And me? I still sit on that bench. Still feed the ducks. But now, people join me. Sometimes they bring bread. Sometimes just silence and company. Either way, I'm not alone anymore. And I'm not going anywhere. Not now. Not ever.